not be returning back to Loudoun County Schools.
There are two hot-button issues right now in Loudoun County Public Schools. One is parents expressing concern about teaching of critical race theory. Some worried that curriculum change will divide children and teach them to see skin color. The other being the proposed transgender policy. 259 people signed up to speak at last night's meeting. It was shut down after 51. Some clearly upset, feeling like their First Amendment rights were taken away. But school sources say that they were worried it was getting too chaotic and were afraid somebody might get hurt. Jillian?
Mike, thanks for being all over this story for us today. We really appreciate it. For more on this, let's bring in Washington Post columnist Mark Thiessen. He's also a former White House speechwriter for President George W. Bush and a Fox News contributor. So, Mark, you saw the video there. Total chaos, people fighting, people getting arrested. We learned just this morning that we had thought yesterday, according to local reporting, that it was actually law enforcement that came and shut this brouhaha down, but it was actually the school superintendent. So read the tea leaves here. Tell us if this is a case of misbehaved parents or if it's instead a case of a school board overreaching and trying to silence parents who are concerned.
Yeah, what we're seeing is the same condescending attitude we saw during the pandemic when parents were demanding that the schools reopen and the school boards, which are in the pockets of the teachers' unions, didn't want to hear from parents. Now we're seeing the same condescending attitude when it comes to teaching critical race theory. I mean, who does this school board leader and the school superintendent think she is? The parents, you shut down when parents are coming up in a public meeting that's been called to discuss this. They shut off their microphones and they declare it an unlawful assembly and send police officers to arrest people. Who does she think she is? Vladimir Putin? This isn't Russia. She works for them. She's an elected official. They have a right. It's her job to sit there until 3 a.m. if they want, if there's enough people who've come to speak, because she's employed by them. They answer. She's supposed to answer to them, and she's acting like she's the dictator of Loudoun County education.
So this whole issue is really capturing the nation's attention because it is fundamentally a policy issue about policy that the state of Virginia is putting into play in the education system. But as you know, Mark, and any parent knows, it's also fundamentally an emotional issue. Take a listen to Caitlyn Jenner, who touched on this last hour on our air. I want to get your response to how she lays this conundrum out.
I feel for those parents. If I become governor there, I will do everything to fight critical race theory being taught to our children. This generation coming up is probably the least racist generation, the most open-minded generation in the history of our country. We don't need to set them back and try to teach them racism.
Do you agree?
She's 100% correct. Look, people look at this and they ask, well, why would we not want to teach racial sensitivity? Why would we not want to teach our history, including all the flaws in our history? And the answer is, of course, we need to teach those things. That's not what critical race theory is. Critical race theory is a radical Marxist ideology that basically holds that the answer to past discrimination is future discrimination, that the answer to racist discrimination is anti-racist discrimination. These are the words of Ibram X. Kendi, who's the leading proponent of critical race theory. It's a rejection of the principles of the civil rights movement. When Martin Luther King came on the